But I want to go straight to a story that's coming out of Solidarity, Kroger, the protests that we've been seeing all over the country, the strikes. And I actually have to pause and say, perhaps you haven't seen the protest. I want to start with a clip that gives us a little bit of insight into what's going on. It's a Kroger employee speaking on the disrespect and the greed that they're experiencing as an employer. Now, before we play the clip, B2, I want y'all to be sure to understand that this is happening during the pandemic, right? These are essential workers. And I want you to really think about how the conversation in this nation changed really on a dime from calling them essential workers to low skill workers when it came time to actually pay these people for working throughout the entirety of the pandemic. Listen to one of the employees of Kroger who, as they explain what's happening and the level of disrespect that they're getting. Not only are they not getting paid, right? Not only are they not getting the kind of money that they need to survive during a pandemic, but you add insult to injury by compounding the disrespect. Let's take a listen to that clip.
I'm William Valdez, King Soopers 119 Meat Market Manager. I'm sitting in negotiations on 114.22. Yeah. We just concluded a meeting that lasted 15 minutes with Kroger representatives. Mr. John McPherson, the head of labor relations for Kroger, stated, "Let your people stay on the street." That's what he thinks about us, and that's what he thinks about you, and that's the value that they have in the people that work for him. So that's why we are on strike.
White, privileged, old men, no diversity, no women. That's what's making these proposals. These people wouldn't be able to make it on what they're trying to pay us.
I've worked for this company for almost 42 years. I love my job. I love my company. But Joe Kelly is not a person of our company. If he can come in here and yell at us and be disrespectful to us, this is not our company anymore. You know, we're just trying to get us a fair wage and what's fair for everybody. The contract has to include every single person in our company, not just a few people can benefit from this. And this is not fair, and this is not respectable, faithful negotiating.
They had completely denied all of our proposals. They wouldn't even look at it.
Been with King Soopers for 9 years. Watching what happened today, I'm very disappointed in our company. This is a company I was proud to work for, and now I feel like they really don't care about us.
Joining us now, as always, on Solidarity Wednesdays is Nomiki Kunst of The Nomiki Show. Nomi, how are you this morning?
Good morning. You have woken me up. It's like, this is the perfect dose of coffee. I've had 2 sips of coffee and I am already motivated. Thank you for that, Ben. Wow.
It's just a lot, when you compound everything that we're expected to have accomplished by the time we're in our 20s with the reality of a system that is designed to keep as much from us as they can. Look at the employees at Kroger's and King Soopers. You're following this and you're following the strikes all around the country. I mean, labor is standing up. Labor is having to stand up because management and capital is saying you're not really essential. At least we're not going to pay you like you're essential.
It's interesting that you mentioned this 23-year-old because as you were saying that, I was trying to remember, I remembered why I initially was lured into the Bernie campaign, why I was attracted to him. And it had to do with free college. And I heard several students talk about their experiences, not being able to afford college and some of the struggles. And suddenly I remembered my struggles with, one semester I didn't have an extra $500 to pay for some books and I was scrambling to find it. And I think the problem is that our generation, before Bernie, the conversations about these structural issues are kind of hidden. and they're still hidden.
That's right.
So that,
That's right.
you know, while you have this juxtaposition of people fighting to survive and companies being like, oh, we just posted a graphic of MLK. Why don't you like us?
Right. Right.
And then the reality is that you're seeing on Instagram, and I mean, at least we're having a public conversation about how, as you said it, so many of these young kids who supposedly succeed, you know, are often floated by, you know, wealthy people, their families, et cetera, connections.
That's right. That's right. That's the gag, right? I really was just freestyling this morning, but when you really think about it, what you see on Instagram are people who have purchased their way through the algorithm 9 times out of 10. It's a representation of wealth already. They are able to come in and create this persona that you want to chase after as a young person, or even some adults. We want to chase after that wealth, but the gag is chasing after it is exactly how they keep us locked into this system. But now we see the opposite side of the coin, which is workers realizing, and really not just realizing, but connecting. I think they always realize, but now they're seeing a broader tapestry around the country of people who are like, listen, I don't have a lot of money. Listen, right. I don't have all the bright lights and cameras. I don't have anything except for my labor. And you have to respect that. And I'm loving that kind of grit is turning in the younger generation, right? You don't just have the Instagrammers, you know, you got some of these young folks out here who understand exactly what the hell is going on.
Of course. And you know, and so many are burdened with student debt. You know, how much that student debt, we've seen the statistics, are people that weren't able to complete college on top of it because they weren't able to make it through, and they're working. And then you look at the conditions of Kroger in particular. I mean, these are essential workers, hashtag essential workers, posters of essential workers everywhere. And the conditions not only didn't change, they got worse under the pandemic. While these companies were so out of touch, knowing that there was an existential crisis in this country. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, we're going to support our people who built our company, they made it worse. They made the conditions worse. That is evil. That is like, there is a line of management there where those decisions pass through human beings who are watching TV, who are seeing what's happening, and they still change
those kind of decisions.
Yep.
What is it about middle management, the middle manager? But I digress. We'll get to that in another conversation. But here, it really is a celebration of solidarity of workers. And then not only just the Kroger strike, but across the country. Like you're in touch with organizations like More Perfect Union, right? And the organizations that are out there in the field, they're doing the work, they're doing the organizing. Just tell us, Nomi, before we get to this next clip, just tell us about some of the things that you're doing and how that intersects with the allyship that we need to fight back against all of these monsters we find ourselves amongst.
Well, first off, thank you. That's very kind of you to offer that. Well, I'll say one thing. More Perfect Union is a fantastic new media publication that is doing the stuff that newspapers said was too expensive to do when they went through newspaper crisis. Now we don't have newspapers as much anymore. And you have big media companies that are making a lot of money that are backed by, you know, venture capitalists and hedge funds. And of course, they don't want to put money into sending cameras to strikes and to these facilities and seeing how organized. But somehow More Perfect Union is able to do it, which makes you think, okay, is this really about, you know, what you're saying? Of course, they hire commentators and they want people to comment on stories, but they don't want to actually do the work of actual reporting. So they're incredible. Definitely give them kudos. On my part, what I will say is for your audience, I'm part of an organization called Matriarch. It's a collective of working class women, a collective of political women, progressive women who are helping out working class women who are currently running for office, in office, thinking about running for higher office, or just thinking about running for office. And it's Matriarch's goal is to enable, activate and make campaigns more viable sooner so that they're competitive with, you know, the establishment, they're competitive with the right wing. And we have a training on January 29th. It's a free training. It's all day. So if you're thinking about running for office, if you're working on a campaign of a working class woman too, you are welcome to this training. Go to matriarchtraining.com Matriarch.com. It's free. It's all day. And
wow.
If you want to be endorsed by Matriarch, this definitely helps because we want to make sure people have the 101s before we start going into the 404 levels.
Yeah. That is, I'm so glad that you actually got the chance to announce that, because one of the main things that we want to do here at the Morning Show is encourage people to listen. If Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, hell, if Donald Trump could become president of the United States, I don't care what your credit score is, folks, go run. Please go run. Go run for office. And speaking of More Perfect Union, they have a great summary of what's happening with Kroger. I want to dovetail the conversation with this clip from More Perfect Union, because I think it really puts it into context, the entire situation, but the abject greed. Let's take a listen in.
They only have one value, and that's greed.
I just think it's corporate greed, plain and simple.
Speaking of taking care of your associates, Rodney, you have found yourself in the middle of this major controversy over these hazard or hero pay mandates. Why did you decide to close stores instead of paying your workers $4 to $5 more per hour?
It was stores we just decided to go ahead and close them because we thought that was the best long-term decision.
If you don't play the game their way, they're going to punish the community.
I think Kroger decided to close because they're greedy. Grocery stores are making more money now than they've ever made. They have, in fact, record profits. That's realized in the increases in their stock prices. It's recognized as in CEO pay. Where they refuse to recognize it is with the people who make their operation go, and that's the workers.
During this pandemic, Kroger has made obscene amounts of profit. In 2020, they made $2.6 billion in profit, which is more than 50% more than the previous year.
The head of Kroger, Rodney McMullen, gave himself a pay raise. He now makes $21 million a year. The cost in LA City that Kroger says is $20 million to pay this hazard pay to all the affected workers. McMullen can write a personal check for that amount and then still scrape by with $1 million for the remaining part of the year. Hazard pay is a reflection of what these workers who did not sign up to be public health workers have undergone over the last year.
Now, Mickey, we're going to be joined momentarily by Dr. Carl Mack. We're going to expand the conversation if you can hang out a bit longer. But in that clip, I almost got caught up in the moment when he said it's going to cost $20 million to accomplish what needs to be accomplished on behalf of workers. The CEO only makes $21 million. And I started to say, wow, that's a whole lot of money to take away from the CEO. But then he put it in context. That leaves the CEO with a whole $1 million to live off of for a year. You can live pretty good on that when you compare it to somebody who's making $8, $9 an hour.
Oh, but Benjamin, come on now. He would have to sell one of his 16 houses to do that. And he wouldn't be able to, go to Barbados every weekend for his, for his sunshine, because it's really hard, living in your executive home. I don't know where his executive, maybe it's in Iowa or something. They got to get their escapes to Barbados. Come on now. Why would he do that? No, but I mean, the truth is, I'm joking, but the truth is, for those who didn't catch that, this is a company that is sustained and built off of workers. So if you're not going to protect your workers, you're not going to have a viable company, which is all you care about, clearly, the next year. It just doesn't work that way. People are going to get fed up. You see it. I mean, this is what I'm saying. They're out of touch. They not only don't understand the conditions on the ground, they don't understand the organizing on the ground. And if I were a CEO right now, I would be scared to death.